Alvina,
Hello.
how you doing? You alright?
I'm okay. Yeah.
You're a Muslim, I assume.
Yeah.
Can I help you today?
Yeah, I want to hear you first. I want to hear you out first.
You want to hear me?
Yeah, I want to hear you out and see, and
Wow,
I just want to hear why you think that.
that's interesting because most Muslims I speak to don't want to hear what I have to say. They've just made a lot of assumptions. So thank you.
Okay, that's okay.
So there's what kind of Muslim are you? Quran only, or you accept Hadith?
Okay, let me explain my position.
Okay.
Um, I wouldn't say I'm a Quranist because I do accept the Hadith, specifically the Mutawatir Hadith, obviously. But when it comes to the Sahih Hadith, as of right now, I am very skeptical of them. So I would rather we just don't talk about those Hadiths because I'm still looking into them. I'm still not sure if I accept some of them. That's my stance currently, if that makes sense.
Yeah, to a certain degree. What does Sahih mean?
Okay. So here, there obviously we have levels of hadith, and so
Mm-hmm.
here's one of the levels of hadith. A lot of hadiths that we hear about on social media are Sahih hadiths. It means that the chain of narration between the people that were writing them down or orally saying them were consistent. That's what that means,
Okay.
in from what I know.
So if it's written down correctly, if it's authentic, if the chain is good, why are you struggling with Sahih Hadith?
Because, okay, let me explain. The reason I struggle with it is because I argue that the Quran has given women rights, and a lot of men, especially in Islamic Arabia in the 7th century, did not appreciate that and did not like the fact that the Quran gave women rights. So they did decide to spread some, maybe they decided to spread some lies. Maybe they decided to twist some narratives. And
Yeah.
other men just joined in. Other men wanted to believe that. But also, I don't know the context of many Sahih Hadiths. Those are my two reasons.
So I get you. I understand your point you're making. That okay, the Quran you believe gives women rights, and there's Arabians in the 7th century who don't appreciate that, and this is where Hadith come from. But if we can't trust the Sahih Hadith, how can we trust any Hadith?
Okay, do you know what the Mutawatir Hadiths are?
Yeah, it's like basically just the ones that are like sound chain, basically the tight, tight,
Yeah,
tight, tight chain,
the Mutaw okay, the Mutawatir Hadiths are more different.
multiply attested.
Yeah, so those hadiths that have so many chains, it's literally impossible that they're false. And there is such a small handful of those hadiths.
That's exactly what I was
Examples
about
of
to say to you. There's
Yeah,
only like
examples of those are just the five pillars. The 5 pillars of Islam, how to pray, praying 5 times a day. Obviously, us as Muslims accept that because that can't be false if multiple chains agreed.
so the problem. Again, I get what you're saying. This is why I asked you: are you Quran only or Hadith?
Yeah.
I get you.
Uh-huh.
The problem with that is the Hadith. It's almost impossible to be a Muslim without the Hadith. The very Hadith you are being skeptical about.
Why do you think I am a okay? As a Muslim, I am allowed to be skeptical of the Sahih Hadith, but I can't be a Muslim if I reject the Mutawatir Hadith.
And you've already said there's only a handful. So this is what I'm
Yeah, but
saying.
those handful are central to Islam. The
But you
five
can't.
pillars, praying 5 times a day, how to pray. You can't be a Muslim without doing that, can you?
Okay, so how do you know how many chapters the Quran has without them, without these hadith where I'm talking about?
By having the Quran and knowing how many chapters are there.
But how do you know what the Quran is without the hadith?
Because
Without,
the
with,
Quran was revealed first over 23 years.
how
The
do you know
Prophet
that?
said that this is the word of God. That's how we know.
How do you know it was revealed first before the hadith?
Because logically, if we think about it logically, hadith is what the prophet said, right? And
Okay,
oh wait, hadith is what the prophet said, so
okay.
that obviously comes after the Quran is revealed. But the specific answer to your
Why?
question, Okay, why? Because now this is authentic. During the 23 years of the Quran being revealed, the Prophet said that you cannot write down anything that I say, only write down what God tells me to say.
Where did
And
he say
he
that?
told his companions, what?
Where did he say that?
Now, I know that this is one hadith that he mentioned that is quite authentic, but I don't know what the name of the
You
hadith
see,
is.
this is
But I
my
read this
problem.
stuff.
This is my problem, sister. Like this is, I know this is a hadith which is quite authentic. Again, so it's part of the Sahih collection, but this is the problem. Without the hadith, the Sahih hadith at a very minimum, you like Islam can't hold like stand up without the hadith, which gives you all of the history and all of the insights and the things Muhammad did and said, etc. How do you even know who Muhammad really is from the Quran without the hadith telling you who he is?
Look, as I've said, I do not reject the entirety of the hadith. It's just currently I'm skeptical of a lot of the Sahih hadith. But
Okay,
I'm still a Muslim.
so
I
if I
still take the Mutawata hadith. I still take a lot of the hadith that are just there to explain who the Prophet is.
so,
Obviously, I accept that.
so if I show you a hadith that's Sahih based on your belief system and structure right now, you can turn around and say, well, this is one I'm going to accept. This is one I'm going to reject.
I'm not reject. Be skeptical of. Okay, look into, research more.
Okay.
Because
So,
reject is a strong word. I'm
okay.
not going to
So,
reject something just because I blatantly don't like what I'm hearing. I need to look into it, right?
okay. So I'll give you an example. I just spoke to someone and I asked, we read a hadith. And in the hadith, it says that the woman that buries her child alive is going to hell. Is that good or bad?
That's good because we can't be unaliving our children.
What? Just that's the only reason why it's good.
That child is
What's
under the
wrong?
age of puberty, has
What's wrong
done
with that?
nothing wrong, and murder is wrong.
Okay. That same hadith that you said is good so far says that the girl that is buried alive will also go to hell.
Now that what you have just said completely contradicts the teachings of the Quran. Because as we know, every child will go to heaven. Because obviously, I'm assuming you know this, Muslims don't believe in original sin. Children are not going to go to hell. Children are pure in the eyes of Allah.
Okay. So why is this girl going to hell? Because her mother buried her alive.
It's that complete. No child in the eyes of God in Islam is going to hell. So my answer to that question, I've never seen that hadith. Maybe the translation is wrong. Maybe that hadith is incorrect. Maybe they may like I cannot tell you why you're reading that. I have no idea. But what I can say for sure is that that goes against the principles and the morals that the Quran teaches us. That's all I can say about
So
it.
the point was that the woman is a polytheist and her offspring is a polytheist, the child of a polytheist.
Yeah.
So the woman's not in Islam, the child's not in Islam. So why would you go to paradise?
Every child is going to paradise according to the teachings of the Quran.
What teachings?
In the Quran,
What teachings in the Quran says every child goes to paradise? I'm
for
interested to
example,
know.
17:15, we do not punish until we have sent a messenger. That child does not know anything. Why would that
No,
child be sent to hell?
no,
As Muslims, we cannot accept things that just contradict the Quran blatantly.
but okay, hold on. So two things. So one, the hadith. If it's a here, then it's a here. Number two, the messenger. The moment the message went out, which said the woman who buries her child alive and the girl are going to hell, the message has gone out.
Not to that child. An infant cannot understand any language. That infant has not received the message. It hasn't even thought about the message. Of course, that child won't go to hell.
Isn't? Don't you believe that every child is born Muslim?
I'm
Isn't that what Islam teaches?
I have heard that. I don't truly understand that. I do need to look more into that. But yes, I've heard Muslims say this, but I actually don't really understand it that much.
The hadith I was talking about is Abu Dawud 4717. Sunan Abu Dawud 4717.
Can you wait, sorry, can you repeat that?
The hadith.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Can I
Yeah,
repeat the
yeah, yeah.
hadith or what it says in the hadith?
Like the name of it,
Yes,
sorry.
Abu Dawud 4717. Can I read another
Okay.
one?
Sorry, I'm just give me a second because I'm just searching it up.
All right, just let me know when you're back.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So obviously, guys, like
Okay,
obviously,
I'm back.
okay, cool. Go ahead.
No, 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 sorry, you were saying something. You can
No,
say what
no,
you were
go
gonna
ahead, go
say.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead. All right.
Okay. So I did search it up. Can you please repeat word for word what the hadith says?
Sure. It says. Give me 2 seconds. All right. 4717 says, um, this is the header is the chapter the offspring of polytheists. So it says, Amir reported the messenger of Allah, may peace be upon him, as saying, the woman who buries alive her newborn girl and the girl who is buried alive, both will go to hell. This tradition has also been transmitted by Ibn Masud from the Prophet, may peace be upon him, to the same effect, through a different chain of narrators. So we know that bare minimum is multiply attested. Multiple people have mentioned this hadith, what Muhammad said here.
Are you reading that from a website called sunnah.com?
Yeah.
Just out of curiosity.
Is there a problem with
Okay.
sunnah.com?
I think so.
Okay.
I
So
think.
there's a problem with the hadith and
From
there's
what
a
I've
problem with
heard,
sunnah.com. Okay. What's the problem?
from what I've heard, sunnah.com is very blatant and very inaccurate in terms of translating from Arabic to English, and from what I know doesn't give context to hadith. And obviously you're a Christian, you know your Bible well, you know how important context is. Sunnah.com doesn't give context, as well as having errors in translation, because obviously we know that especially in olden day Arabic, words have multiple meanings, and sunnah.com can just pick and choose what meanings it tends to translate into from old Arabic to modern English. That is what I've heard. It's what I think makes sense.
Okay. So you think that this is mistranslated, and because
It
of that,
has to be.
why
Because
does it no? Why does it have to
yes,
be mistranslated?
because the Quran is the center of Islam, and that goes against the core teachings of the Quran.
What core teachings? If the child is a Muslim, then they will go to paradise, perhaps. If not, then depending on the
Core teachings of the
circumstances,
Islam, as in every child will go to heaven, every child will go to paradise,
based on
based on a lot of things, but one of the most clearest verses in the Quran, 17:15, we do not punish until we have sent a messenger.
the messenger was sent. Muhammad sent the message that if you do this, the woman and the child are going to go to hell. The message has been sent.
That this okay. That what I just said, that verse, it means that in Islam, a person is only held accountable by Allah after receiving the message and understanding it. An infant, a child cannot understand any religion. They can't understand anything. Those children haven't reached maturity. They don't have full moral responsibility, so therefore they are not held accountable for sins in the same way adults are.
So
And also, in the Quran, it says, no soul bears the burden of another. Children cannot be blamed for what their forefathers do, for what their grandparents do. It goes against the core principles of Islam.
who said the girl is being judged based on what, like, the mum?
I'm not saying that the verse is implying that. I'm just telling you the core teachings of Islam and in general how much it emphasizes that children can't go to hell.
Okay, can I read another hadith to you?
Of course.
Okay, this is few before that one that we just read. This is also a Sahih hadith. Let's do.
Sorry, okay, I don't mind you saying sorry, I don't mind you telling me the hadith, but I have a quick question. Are we going to talk about the Quran, or do you just want to stick to the Sahih hadith?
We can talk about the Quran, but I just want to, like I said to you already, it's just, you're very inconsistent. This is why I said we can go to hadith and
How
you're
am
going to
I?
say,
Wait, sorry. How am I? What have I said that's inconsistent according to you?
you said you're very skeptical about Sahih hadith. Now, the
Of
reason why,
some of them,
the reason why
yes,
this
of
is
some of
interesting
them.
is because all the Muslims I've spoken to before you have said, I've asked them, do you accept hadith? And apart from one who is a Quran only Muslim, they've all been like, yeah, we accept them as long as they're Sahih, as long as they're authentic. So the fact you have called in and you're now like, well, I'm skeptical about them. I'm skeptical about Sahih hadith. Sahih is supposed to mean it's authentic, it's acceptable. This is what Muslims have been telling us for years. But now, in recent years, all of a sudden, Sahih doesn't mean Sahih anymore. So I'm just saying, if Sahih doesn't really mean Sahih, and you can just say, well, I'm skeptical about this. I don't really know about this because, for whatever reason, this is what I said to you earlier on. I could take you to any hadith that's Sahih, and you could just turn around and say, yeah, I don't vibe with this hadith, even though it's Sahih. So how can you vibe with Sahih hadith that you accept, that you like? It's just pick and choose, pick and mix.
It's not pick and choose, though, is it? Because I never said the Sahih doesn't mean Sahih anymore. I agree with what Sahih means. I agree that Sahih is a hadith that has consistent translations within one chain of narration. However, I told you two reasons that I'm skeptical as of now, which may change in the future. One of those reasons being I haven't done that much research into the context, into the translations of Arabic to English, into the context of a lot of controversial hadiths. And as a Christian yourself, you should know how important context is. It is okay that I'm not completely sure of a lot of controversial Sahih hadiths. That doesn't make me inconsistent. It makes me someone that just needs to question things and is self-aware that as a Muslim, I have a lot more research to do.
So for example, right, if I turn around and I was like, okay, I'm a Christian, I believe in the Bible, but you ask me about a particular book and then I'm like, oh, you know what? I don't know if this is God's word or not. What would you say about me?
Because I think the Bible and the Hadith are two different things and can't be comparable. The Hadith is approached differently by Muslims than compared to the Bible being approached by Christians.
How?
Our holy book is the Quran.
Because like I said to you,
Because your holy book is the Bible, our holy book is the Quran.
Like I said,
genuinely speaking, the way Muslims approach the Hadith is different in mindset compared to how a Christian approaches the Bible.
Like I said to you before, most of the Muslims I spoke to already turned around and said, yes, we believe in the Hadith as long as it's authentic. You will hear Muslims will say you can't reject the Hadith. They will say that to you.
I never said reject. I even said this near the beginning. I will never say the word reject because reject is a strong word. There is nothing wrong with me being self-aware of the fact that I've not done that much research into the context, and I am not insecure. Like, I'm not insecure and not scared to admit the fact that my research is limited.
You can. I'm not. It's not a problem with research and all that kind of stuff. And my point is, Muslims, this been happened in the past. Muslims who are hearing what you are saying will turn around and say, no, like, what's she talking about? She's not a Muslim. That's not. It's unacceptable to have that sort of mindset. Not the skepticism part. Even some people even debate about that. Like, you're supposed to just take what Muhammad says. But my point isn't to necessarily pin you down to any particular hadith. The point is for you to just acknowledge that we've gone to one hadith and you'll be like, no, it can't be this. You could do that with every hadith which you deem as controversial, which you don't like.
Because ultimately, the heart of Islam is the Quran. So I'd rather, if you're making a claim saying that Islam is bad for women, let's talk about the Quran.
Is
Tell
that
me
part? Is the hadith part
what
of
in the
Islam?
Quran you don't like is said about. Of course it is. I didn't say it's not.
So when I'm saying Islam is bad for women, Islam includes the Quran, the hadith, etc. Right?
So my question back to you, which I agree with what you're saying, but my question back to you is there anything you actually don't like about the Quran, or is your only issue with the hadith? Genuine question.
So if I said yes, it's only the hadith, I'm fine with all the Quran, all you're just proving to me is really like you're Quran only. Like,
Okay.
but I'm not saying that's the case. I've had conversations with people about the Quran, but I'm just saying all you're basically showing for people to see is you're Quran only, basically. You are Quran
I'm not
only.
Quran only at all. I take Mutawa Hadith. No, yeah. I take Mutawatir Hadith. I take a lot of the Sahih Hadith, but I'm currently doing, like, I need to do more research into a lot of other Sahih Hadith to learn the context, because as I've said, my research is limited. I never said the word reject. I never said that I'm a Quranist, because I accept the Mutawatir Hadith fully and a lot of the Sahih Hadith fully.
Have you ever
And
heard?
like, I feel like I'm
Have you
just
ever heard of the
repeating
statement?
myself. It is,
No, you're not. Have you ever heard of the statement that actions speak louder than words?
yes.
So I'm just saying your actions are speaking louder than the words you're saying.
Okay, what action have I done to you that shows that I am not, like, aligning with what I'm saying? What have I said, and what action contradicts it?
No, the action, why I would say you're basically Quran only is because I'm taking you to hadith which are Sahih, which you should reasonably accept, but you're just like, no, I don't want to accept it. I'm skeptical about this because it seems to go against. It seems to go against something I believe in the Quran. That you have to be consistent.
But I also raised another issue with the fact that Sunnah, no. I also raised another issue about Sunnah.com being incredibly inaccurate in translations, not giving context. I also said that as well. Sunnah.com should not be, yeah?
Sunnah.com, like, it's an Islamic website.
It's not okay. That doesn't.
It's
what
not a
I'm
website.
saying still holds true.
It's not a website from Christians.
Inaccurate.
It's not okay. Let's talk about the Quran. Let's talk about the Quran.
Yes, I would love to talk about the Quran.
Let's talk about the Quran. Okay, so I've spoken to a couple Muslims today about this topic, so I'll bring it up with you, right? 434. Are you familiar with that verse?
Yes. I want to hear you out.
Okay, so this is commonly known as the wife beating verse. Okay. So I want to hear what you have to say. So it says, men are the managers. I'll skip that part because let's just get to the relevant part. So it says, righteous women are therefore obedient, guarding the secret for God's guarding. And for those you fear may be rebellious, admonish, banish them to their couches and beat them. If they then obey you, look not for any weight against them. God is all high, all great. So what do you think about that? About this verse? This is the Quran. You accept this, right? You're not skeptical about what this verse says. Okay. So you tell me what you think.
No, I'm not skeptical of the Quran. No.
Okay, so
I understand that yeah.
Go ahead. So tell me.
Sorry, were you gonna say something?
No, I was just gonna this verse is talking about a man who fears rebellion from his wife. Okay. It's not a man who, it's not like it's a fear. He has this thought or thinking in his mind. It's not guaranteed. He fears that his wife is being rebellious to him. He's given 3 options. admonish, so tell her off, tell her to fix up basically. Then he banishes her, or maybe he goes, depending on who's interpreting it. And then it says beat them. This is a problem for me. I don't believe a husband should beat his wife. Do you agree or you disagree?
I agree.
Okay. Why do you agree with me when the Quran, which you're not skeptical about, is saying the opposite?
Because, now let me explain.
Hold
I
on, hold on, hold
said
on a second. Before you hold
at the
on,
beginning.
just a second, right? Before you explain, right? T is saying that Quran.com does not say that, and I'm adding the word beating. No, the Arabic says beat. Do your research.
Okay, I
Okay, go ahead.
understand.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, oh, you're reading from the comments. Oh, okay.
Yeah. I was just addressing that comment quickly. Now you go ahead. Say what you're gonna say.
Okay, no, that's fine. Don't worry. I'm gonna address what the comments are saying as well. Don't worry. Okay, so can I explain now? Or
Yeah,
like
go
do you
ahead.
have more
Yeah.
to add?
No, just let me hear what you say. I'm only
Okay.
interested in what you say based on what I've said so far.
Of course. So I take the Quran fully. I'm not skeptical. So the word used in the Quran, when obviously because the Quran is originally in Arabic, the word used is daraba.
Mm-hmm.
Daraba has multiple meanings. Okay,
Correct.
daraba is not. Daraba has multiple meanings. One of them meaning strike, but generally speaking, a lot of scholars say that this is symbolic and it doesn't mean real violence. Arguably, daraba is translated into leave or separate. So the steps become talking, separating emotionally, and separating physically from your wife, not beating them up, not beating her up. Daraba has multiple meanings. And obviously, you may ask, okay, how do we know what meaning to interpret? What if it is striking? What if it doesn't mean to hit your wife? Generally speaking, if Daraba genuinely meant to hit your wife, it wouldn't go against a lot of the other Quran verses which say that we need to treat our wife good, blah, blah, blah. Which is why it makes so much sense to when we translate daraba to English, we pick the translation that says leave or separate because it consistently aligns with how the Quran teaches to treat our women.
Okay, so I understand what you said. I'm going to deal with the first thing I want to address is what you said towards the end. So you said this is why you go with the translation to leave to travel. I've heard this interpretation before. I've actually heard we actually have this come up on a live stream before actually, and the Muslim scholar who was mentioning this was saying that is one of the interpretations, but it doesn't really fit the construction of the Arabic in the verse. So he was basically saying some Muslims try to go with this interpretation, but it doesn't quite fit. It's not really the best translation of the words. So, but most of the translations that you can read in English don't say go on a travel, don't go on like travel away. Most of them, a lot of them, like translate it as beat. Some of them, which are trying to do some patchwork or trying to add their interpretation into the verse, will say in brackets, for example, lightly, or talk about a symbolic beating. But most of the translations you're going to read aren't going to say anything about going on a traveling somewhere, because they know it doesn't really fit the context and the structure of the verse.
So I haven't heard the argument that it doesn't fit grammatically with the verse. I've not personally heard that argument, but in general, when it comes to trying to interpret something, we need to see if it aligns with the general Quran teachings. Do you agree?
Yes, to a certain degree. So I was going to say to you, so if we think about what the verse says, yeah, it says
Okay.
admonish, okay, so tell them off, speak to them. Then it says banish them to their couches. So whether you take that as the husband leaves the wife and goes to sleep somewhere else, or whether you want to take it that the husband says you leave and go and sleep somewhere else, and then daraba, which one translation is beat them, another you're saying is okay, like travel somewhere, go somewhere for what would be the purpose of going somewhere?
From the I argue that the correct interpretation is just talking it out, separating emotionally, separating physically.
Yeah, I know.
So it genuinely just depends on the context, it depends on the situation, but everything needs to be done in kindness, in respect, in a very in a non-violent manner.
I get you. So if he's separating from her, he's no longer having intercourse with her, he's sleeping somewhere else or she's sleeping somewhere else. Why would it make sense after this? The next level is, okay, now I'm leaving. I'm going somewhere.
Because going through the levels indicates that the first level didn't go well. But if they talk it out and everything's fine, then they're good.
No, I understand that point. For people who say, yeah, this is levels and you go through the levels in order to bring unity back into the relationship. I get that. I understand that. That's cool. But I'm just saying, if you leave the marriage bed and then you're sleeping somewhere else, isn't that already like a separation? You're now saying it's separate and then separate again. That's why they say it doesn't fit.
No, separate
How
emotionally
how
and
can you
separate
leave?
physically.
It doesn't say banish them to their couches. It isn't talking about banishing emotionally. It's separation. You are now moving away from that person. So this is what I'm asking you. It's basically saying, according to your interpretation of this, leave and then leave again.
So I don't know where you're getting banished from, banished to their couches,
From the
because
Quran.
I've never heard of that.
Like this is one of
But I don't know what website
this is
you're on, but
this is
it doesn't
quranx.com.
say the translation of the translation from banishing to their couch. That's
Okay.
just blatantly wrong.
Okay, let me read another one. Okay, I'll read multiple ones, right? That was Arbery. Now we'll read Hilali Khan. This one says, those women whose part you see ill conduct, admonish them, and it's got in brackets first and then next. Then it says refuse to share their beds, and then it says in brackets, and last, beat them. And then it says in brackets, lightly if it is useful. Pickthou says, as for those from whom you fear rebellion, admonish them and banish them to beds apart and scourge them. Then if they obey you, seek not away. That was Pickthou. So here International says, but those wives in brackets from whom you fear arrogance, first advise them, then if they persist, forsake them in bed, and finally strike them. But if they obey you, and then it goes on. Yusuf Ali is another translation. It says, those women on whose part you fear disloyalty, it says, and ill conduct, admonish them first, next refuse to share their beds, and last, beat them, and then it has in brackets, lightly. So you read through multiple different translations, and then that's what one of the ways that gives you a understanding, a feel of what the verse is actually saying. This is what I was saying to you earlier on. Like if you read through a lot of the translations, they're not taking this interpretation that you take, which it means, to travel away. And these are Arabic speakers, Arabic translators. There's a reason why they're not going down that pathway, because they know it doesn't really fit like contextually and according to just like the grammar and all that kind of stuff. That's why they all typically come from the same approach, even though the translations which are speaking against, it would seem, like a strong physical beating, they put in brackets lightly. They're not saying it's it means travel. They're just like, okay, yeah, it does mean beat, it does mean hit them, but it means lightly. Or you hear some people say it means symbolically. But for someone like you, how are you going to get to that interpretation? Because one of the things you said earlier on, you said, well, I don't believe it's like a physical beating because it goes against other things in the Quran, which talks about treating a woman nicely. And my point is, obviously, if this verse is talking about a woman who the man fears disobedience, if he's now given these stages or he's given these options, talk, separate from them, and then beat them or strike them or scourge them, discipline them. These are different words which Arabic like translators are translating into English. If they're saying that, wouldn't that be a Muslim following what Allah has given him the power to do in that situation? It would be being a good Muslim. Right?
Okay,
She's gone
do
somewhere, guys.
understand
Say
what
that
you're
again,
saying.
sorry?
I understand.
Okay.
However, uh-huh.
Yeah, go. So go
Sorry,
ahead.
what
I
did you
couldn't hear you.
say?
No, go ahead. Keep going. I couldn't hear you at first, but go ahead.
So another interpretation that I've heard, I hear this less, but I have heard it, and it's that the last stage meant symbolic hitting, and the bracket lightly could just mean with a small twig, which is what Arabic speakers called a miswak,
Mm-hmm.
like a small twig. But it's not meant to indicate beating, it's meant to be a gesture of seriousness or disapproval, not violence, because we're not meant to hurt anyone. And we know that it wouldn't translate to beating your wife, because Islamic principles are causing no harm, kindness in marriage. And we know that the Prophet never would hit anyone, would never hit his wife.
So you're not familiar with the hadith where it says Muhammad, one of the versions says, struck Aisha on the chest and it caused her pain. You're not familiar with that?
I'm not familiar with that, but I'm not familiar with that. I've never heard of him hitting Aisha.
T says they knew it. They called it because T was
Can you
saying,
say that?
T
Can you
was
tell me what
T,
hadith it is?
T was saying, yeah, I'm going to say this if you mention that.
Oh, I'm
So
reading the comments now. Yeah.
it's Sahih Muslim book 4 2127. It's a long hadith. Basically, when you read it, I advise you to read it as well. Like
Okay. I'm
obviously,
just searching it up.
Muslims have a lot of obviously patchwork that they do on it, but the hadith says what it says, right? But you read it, it's a long hadith. Basically, in the story, it goes like this: Muhammad, apparently it's Aisha's night, so Muhammad comes to see Aisha. He's lying in the bed.
Wait, sorry, can you say it again? Because I think I typed it up wrong.
Sahih Muslim, book 4 2172 2127 2127.
2127. Okay,
So here
I'm
Muslim book
searching.
4 2127.
2127.
So basically, it's Aisha's
Yeah.
night. Muhammad comes to see her. He gets
And
in
this
the.
is the one where apparently he hits Aisha. Is that what?
It's not apparently. Hadith, you read
Okay.
it, it says he
Okay, yeah.
struck her on the chest and she says it caused her pain. So, yeah, he basically comes to the house, he lies in the bed, and he basically gets up at some point. It's nighttime, and then he goes out. So she follows him, and she's following him along. He gets to a particular place. He prays, allegedly, like it says he's praying or whatever, right? And then he feels like someone's following him. So he now starts going back. Aisha starts running home. She gets home first. She jumps in the bed, and that's basically like she's sleeping. So then he gets up and he's just like, Aisha, like, what are you doing? Basically, was that you? Who I saw basically like the shadow that was running before me. And at first she doesn't tell the truth. She's not like yes. Eventually she's just like okay. She tells him everything. You woke up, you got out, I went out, I got up and went after you, and then whatever. So she's basically thinking he's gonna go to someone else's house, one of the other women, and then whatever. So then it talks about how he struck her on the chest. She says he struck her on the chest, which caused pain. So the Muslim's gonna say he struck her, but it wasn't like he touched her chest. It wasn't to hurt her. That's what they're gonna say. But it just happened that she had pain, which to me just sounds like patchwork. But I'll tell you what they're gonna say, whether you believe or want to take that as reasonable. Like Aisha saying what he did to her caused their pain. If they're gonna turn around and say no, but he didn't intend to cause her pain. They're gonna say something along those lines.
Okay, what do you have to say to the Muslims that say that he didn't intend to cause pain? If you're claiming that that's what Muslims are going to respond to you with.
Well, there's multiple things you can say. I would just say, well, okay, in the, let's say he didn't intend to do it, still did it though, didn't he? So when I'll put it like this, right? When when you unalive someone, they will say, okay, cool, you can go, you get a life sentence. If someone unalives someone unintentionally, there's still punishment for it. It's still seen as, okay, wrong, but it's not intentional. So you're not going to get the same punishment, but you're going to get a punishment nonetheless.
Okay. I think that analogy was reasonable. I think it's okay.
I
I
still think it's
think you're
patchwork
right.
though.
It's
I still
important
think
to
it. No, I
acknowledge.
just don't get me twisted. I still think it's patchwork because Aisha says what she says.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So your murder analogy, in that scenario, of course, intention or no intention, a murder was done, a consequence needs to happen. That me and you can both agree on. However, that analogy only really works because when you murder someone, you've murdered someone, they're dead. There's no coming back from that. So a consequence needs to happen no matter if it was manslaughter or murder or first degree murder, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think you can I don't think you can reduce this specific hadith, this specific scenario to something so black and white as murder.
But okay. Even if let's say I agree with you, like I'm just
Okay.
telling you what I believe is Muslim patchwork because I don't have to
When you say
accept.
Muslim patchwork, what do you mean?
Like they
Do
just like
you
this is. I just look at this as Islam, like Muslims trying to dress up what's clear and obvious. If I don't have to accept that he didn't intend to do it, what in the context will tell you that he didn't intend to do it? If he struck her
okay?
and she had pain, like it's reasonable to just say, okay, yes, like in that moment he was angry and he hit her.
Yeah,
That's what it says. But
yeah.
I would only be giving the Muslim the benefit of the doubt if I just said, okay, cool, he didn't intend to do it because it doesn't say anything about him not intending to do it.
From my understanding about this hadith, from the way you've explained it, what my interpretation is that it wasn't a very, very violent or harmful hitting, but it was a gentle push or a gentle pressure on her chest that wasn't intended to hurt her, but did hurt her because obviously she claimed it, right? So me and you can both agree on that. But you made a very when I asked you about what you mean about Muslim patchwork, you said,
Yeah.
Muslims just dressing up or like sugarcoating things, right? Is that what you mean?
Like
Muslims sugarcoating things?
think about this, right? I could make the argument that Muhammad, as the hadith says, striking her on the chest and causing her pain. I could easily just say, well, this is in line with other hadith where Muhammad orders his men to beat women. So it would be full in line. Or a Muslim is only going to say, this is the problem I have with Muslims, especially on this topic.
Okay.
And a Muslim can make an argument and say, oh, well, look, there's these hadith which say don't beat a woman or don't harm her or beating women is bad, depending on which Muslim you're talking to. But there's also loads of contradictory hadith which talk about Muhammad ordering women to be beaten by their husbands and the women complaining about it and stuff along those lines, which is like, okay, how are you going to make sense of all of these hadith where some are clearly like contradictory? What do? Muslims are going to say, well, let's focus on these hadiths. And I'm like, okay, but these hadith are over here too. Why are we going to just focus on those hadith and not focus on these hadith? I don't really get what I believe are good, sufficient answers to those questions.
Okay. I am going to reply to you, but before I reply to you, do you want to read what the comments are saying? Okay, Sakina, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name wrong, but she said, let's talk about the Bible and women, please. The verses in the Bible are shocking. I definitely do want to go on that topic, but I want to
There's,
finish what me and you were talking about
there's,
first.
this is the thing, right? I even spoke to a Muslim about this earlier. There's no Bible
Okay.
verse where you're going to find a husband beating his wife and it
Okay,
being
okay, no,
and it
that's
being
fine. That's fine. We can go. I don't want to deviate the discussion because you've been making some good points. So I want to stick to that. But I just want to hold the Bible topic just after we finish what me and you were talking about, if that's okay.
yeah, like
Because
that's
I
what
want to address what you've said. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, cool, go ahead.
Okay. Genuinely, I agree and I understand. I think it's unfair that Muslims are picking and choosing the hadiths. They pick hadiths that make Islam look good, and then just completely reject hadiths, or say, oh, like, I don't know, and then like they just reject hadiths that they don't like. Okay,
But you know, that's what I
I
was accusing you of doing earlier,
understand
right?
the frustration, and I understand how this looks. But this is why, from the beginning of this conversation, I said that we need to do more research into these hadiths, because clearly Muslims can't even agree with what hadiths are right and what hadiths should be rejected, or what hadiths need more context. If Muslims can't agree, as a collective, we need to learn about the context more. We need to look at the translations more. We need to know what websites are good, what websites are bad. We need to know more information before we can dive into this, which is why we need to focus less on the hadith and more on the Quran. The Quran is the heart of Islam. The Quran is on a higher pedestal than the hadith. We need to be speaking about the Quran more. That's what I have to say. I completely understand your frustration. However, as a whole, in the grand scheme of things, the Quran makes it so clear what the moral principles are, and it's being kind. It is treating your woman correctly. It is a marriage being of true love. It is a man and a woman being spiritually equal in the eyes of Allah. A Muslim cannot go against these moral principles in the Quran that are so consistently repeated.
Okay, I understand what you're saying,
Yeah.
and all I'm gonna say is we went to the Quran because that's where you wanted to go.
Yeah.
We spoke about a verse in the Quran,
Mm-hmm.
and the Quran is saying if a man fears disobedience from his wife or fears rebellion, he is entitled to these stages or these steps, however you interpret it. Some say stages, some just say these are the options. One of those options is to beat.
To beat indicates strong violence. That is not what the word daraba should be translated to. As I
Okay.
said, daraba can be translated into many things. The majority of scholars say that it is just another form of separation, a further step into separation, or leaving your wife, maybe for that night, maybe for a few hours. A smaller handful of people think that it is using a miswak, just like maybe on her shoulder or her arm or something in serious cases, but it would never indicate true violence because it goes against everything the Quran stands for. That's all I have to say about the verse as of now. I should do more research though as to what other scholars say about it.
Obviously, you definitely should because the majority don't say it's about separation. I know that much for sure. So, obviously, like I said, I'm not surprised the approach you're coming from because I feel like this is what you've been doing from the very beginning. It's
Okay.
scholars say a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Scholars can say one thing and another thing. I don't care too much about what scholars say unless they're making sound, reasonable arguments. So
Mm-hmm.
one of the things you've said multiple times is this Arabic word daraba means beat, and it has multiple
Yeah.
definitions, which I agree with. When you first said it initially, I said, yeah, it's true. I know that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's examples. Like I could put it like this. There are examples in the Quran where daraba is used in like a violent way. You do know that, right? On
Wasn't
somebody.
aware of Darabah being used in more violent contexts. Are you like
So you
I'm not aware of that.
so you think the Quran, when it's using the word daraba, it's only used in like a non-violent way?
In this specific context of Surah 4, verse 34, yes, it is in a non-violent way.
No, but why? If, like you've already said, the word has a wide range of meaning, and
Yeah.
you've accepted that one of the meanings is like a physical, like a violent beating, like something
Yeah.
physical. Why, like, why are you so quick to just be like, yeah, but this it can't be that here?
Because that is a very, very good question. And
Mm-hmm.
my umbrella response to that question is because it genuinely goes against what the Quran stands for. The Quran teaches us that in a marriage you should love one another. The Quran teaches us to love your wife, to love your husband. The Quran teaches us there are so many different verses that promote love for your husband and love for your wife, that say that man and woman are together in a marriage in a very spiritually equal way. So if you have so many verses consistently just showing how important love and care is and kindness is, it makes sense that Darabah means in a non-violent way. Do you
But
understand what I'm saying? What do you
I,
would like what do
I
you
get what
think?
you're saying, but I'm just like, even if I agreed with all of the stuff you're saying, the Quran apparently says love your wife, and the Quran says treat your wife well. How would that contradict a passage which is saying a husband, if he fears like rebellion from his wife, these are the things you can do, and one of them being beating them? You could make sense of everything you just said along with this verse, because this is a woman who's not doing the right thing, or the guy thinks she's doing something wrong. Like, why would it not be able to coexist with everything you're saying?
Um okay. I I do understand what okay, I do understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's a valid point, yes. I do see what you're saying in the sense that you can just treat your wife nicely, but then in this specific context, it's just allowing you to beat them if you think that they will disobey. I do see that, like I do understand that, but I just one of the main reasons I think we can genuinely come to the conclusion that Darabah means in a non-violent way is because I don't know the exact verse. I'm going to need to search this up. But there was a verse in the context of divorcing your spouse, divorcing your wife or divorcing your husband. And it said that do not go to harm them or transgress them. And I think that shows that even in the midst of divorce, even in the midst of disagreement, using your position to harm or oppress your spouse is forbidden. So that teaching alone shows that I think no matter the situation you're in, no matter if you're even in the midst of a divorce, the Quran teaches us to not harm our spouse. I think that is a very strong verse that shows that we cannot be harming our spouse, no matter what the situation is, no matter how much you disagree with your spouse. That is one, I think, strong verse. There are probably other verses. There are definitely other verses.
So again, I understand what you're saying. And even if I agree with you and say, okay, cool, the Quran says, even without you giving me a verse, even if I say, okay, cool, the Quran apparently says that you're not supposed to do harm when you are getting divorced. How would that contradict or make this verse like inaccurate? It wouldn't.
Because in no, because I it genuinely does because look, in a divorce, right? In a divorce, you're actively leaving your partner. There is a large amount of disagreement, probably arguing that has led up to that moment, and yet it still says to retain from harming or transgressing your spouse.
Again, even if that was true, that wouldn't contradict or go against what this verse is saying. Both of those two things can coexist and go together without any issue.
But but in both scenarios, disagreement is happening. And in one scenario, someone can interpret that it means violence, but in another scenario about divorce, it's clearly stating to not beat them up, no matter how much disagreement there is, even if you're going to divorce your spouse.
Obviously, you believe that's what it's saying.
I believe what that's what the divorce verse is saying, or
Yeah,
what the four three
you're
four.
making
No, no, no,
the
no, no. The divorce verse is very, very clear in saying to retain from harming or transgressing them.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You are saying that this verse teaches this and is applicable to potential beating. So I'm saying if I go with you down this pathway and say, okay, the Quran apparently says a husband or a wife, or listen, a Quran apparently says a husband shouldn't do harm to his wife when it's in the stage of divorce. Why is this 34? 34 is not talking about divorce, it's before divorce. So
Okay.
it wouldn't need to apply. It doesn't have to apply, is my point.
Okay. Okay. I do agree with you. I think the divorce verse is probably one minor verse amongst many, many verses that prove that we shouldn't be using violence against our wives.
See, the problem is you're agreeing with me a lot, but still going down a different pathway.
No, I'm not, because I'm acknowledging the fact that there are lots of other verses that which I don't know off the top of my head, but those verses do go against the beating of your wife, that show that you need to be forgiving and nice and loving.
Let me ask you this,
Maybe the
right?
difference between me and a lot of Muslims, a lot of other Muslims that you've debated, is that I'm okay with being self-aware about the fact that I need to do more research. That's the only difference.
No, you did.
I'm just telling you that I
Can
don't
I be
know.
real with you?
Yeah.
The difference is you don't believe what Muhammad said about Muslim women in the hadith. That's the difference.
That is not the difference, because
Yeah,
there
it
is
is the
so much.
difference.
No, there's so
It
much
is the
context
difference.
in that needs to be go. Look, there are some
Do-
verses in the Bible that are controversial, and you probably have context for them, and that's okay. But I don't have context for a lot of hadith. That doesn't mean that I just outright reject them.
do you know what Muhammad said about women in the hadith?
In what hadith?
Because you already used to like, no, that's not the case. This is like, you're not the normal Muslim I speak to. This is why I'm happy to speak for this long with you, because you continue to show me that you are reasonable. You're reasoning through stuff, which is what I believe all women can do. Obviously, Muhammad, according to Dave, didn't believe that. Muhammad said in the hadith that women are basically half-brained. So their minds are deficient, is what Muhammad said in the hadith. And you don't strike me as someone who has a deficient mind. You strike me as someone who can have a conversation, we can reason and we can ask questions and we can go back and forth and we can understand each other. This is how I believe God created us all, men and women, to think and to reason and to be able to do this stuff. This is what I'm saying. Most of the Muslims out there drink the Kool-Aid, basically. They believe that what Muhammad is saying is right. This is one of the reasons why they're the most people in hell, according to the hadith. So, like, I get it why a lot of Muslims want to reject the hadith, but I just don't at the same time believe it's consistent to say you believe in Islam, say you believe in the Quran, say you believe in this, but dash the hadith to the wayside. Because like I said earlier on, like, the hadith is what gives the Quran so much more context and so much more understanding. And like I asked you earlier on, you wouldn't even know how many chapters are in the Quran without the hadith.
I don't know why you're saying that, because if you have the Quran, we know that there's 114 chapters in them. We
So
have the book, we can count how many chapters are there in
that
them.
now gets into the whole conversation about what the hadith tells us about people who memorize the Quran dying in war and why they started writing the Quran down in the first place. Like, wherever we go, it's going to come back to the hadith for you to get most
Yeah,
of these
but as
answers.
I've said, I feel like you're acting like you said putting hadith to the side, quote. I'm not doing that. I've repeatedly said that I'm not rejecting it. I'm not putting it to a side. I just need to do more research myself.
So the point I'm making is the same Sahih hadith that you are going to accept, which is going to tell you there's 114 surahs in the Quran. And this is what Uthman did in order to make sure the Quran was preserved. Those are the same Sahih hadith like we looked at earlier on, where it's talking about a woman who buries her child alive and the girl both of them going to hell. They're both sahih. So you have to, that's the problem that you have, that you'll never be able to escape. And this is why I'm saying there's like, reasonably, you shouldn't be skeptical of sahih hadith. This is why most Muslims will say, like, no, that's not the right way to do this. You have to accept the sahih hadith.
Yes, we need to accept hadiths that are authentic, but I really don't understand. I feel like we're going in a circle. I'm telling you that I'm going to learn more context of the hadith. I need to learn the full translations because websites like sunnah.com do a bad job when it comes to direct translation because it doesn't even give context on top of that as well. Allegedly, fine, okay, I'll go with that. I need to do more research, yes, but just because I'm acknowledging that my knowledge is limited doesn't make me any less of a Muslim. And I'm sure if I told another Muslim, look, I don't know a lot about the Sahih Hadith, I need to do more research, I'm never going to make the claim that I reject the Hadith, they will accept that response from me. Because I'm showing that I'm open to learning more, and I will never reject the hadith because hadith is obviously so important to Islam.
Well, one thing I would advise you, definitely keep that openness and that reason, because it will definitely lead you to more and more truth, which, like I said to you before, a lot of Muslims as a whole, right? And it's not even just Muslims, like Muslims in general, when you ask them certain questions, when you have these sorts, they can't have these sorts of conversations, most of them, because it's too, I don't know, like if it's just too emotional for them or like what it is, but you have conversations with them on different topics and they just malfunction, as we like to say.
Malfunction?
Yeah, because they're basically just like robots.
They as in the Muslims in general, or Muslims that you've debated?
Not Muslims in general, just like a lot of the Muslims I've had conversations with.
Right.
They malfunction.
When you bring up hadith?
When you ask them certain questions. Like, so for example, right, the hadith we looked at earlier on about the woman and the girl. Like, I've asked Muslims about that before. They'll say stuff like, well, I'll ask them, okay, cool. So it says the woman's going to go to hell. Kind of like I think I asked you. And they were like, okay, yeah, it's good. And the moment I talk about the child, all of a sudden, they don't know what to say anymore. Because they're not being willing to continue to be consistent. And then all of a sudden, it's like, okay, yeah, I don't know. That's what I'm talking about.
It's not, I don't know though, because I'm sure a lot of Muslims would have told you that second part completely goes against the core principles of the Quran. The Quran tells us that before puberty, children are not going to go to hell, that they're all going to go to paradise. A lot of Muslims are also going to tell you that websites like sunnah.com and a lot of these hadith websites that are quote unquote made by Muslims are not that good at translating, because Old Arabic to English is a whole different world, and so many words in Arabic have multiple different meanings. Okay, when it comes to hadith, I genuinely argue that scholars are the best people to answer these questions, not Muslims like us that genuinely don't have enough knowledge about hadith, because you do need to have an immense amount of knowledge about these things to answer them like scholars do.
Do you know who Dr. Yasser Qadi is?
Yes. Yeah, I'm pretty there.
Do you think he's a scholar?
Yes, apparently he is, yeah.
Do you think he's a very knowledgeable scholar?
I would assume that every scholar. Wait, can you say his name again, just so I have the right person in mind?
Yasser Qadi. Dr. Yasser Qadi.
Yeah. I mean, I'm assuming that he's a scholar, yeah, and I'm assuming that every scholar knows enough knowledge.
Okay. Do you know what he says about 434?
I don't know.
I played the video, one of his videos before. He says, one of the things he said in that video was, he advises people because He advises in certain situations now living in the West for you to skip over the third stage.
Okay.
Why do you think he would say that if it's talking about like leaving emotionally or leaving the house? Why do you think he would say, yeah, just skip over that now? Like, don't do it.
Because I also said that Muslims hold the interpretation that it means using a miswak, a light stick, on your wife's arm.
If
That is
he,
also another so that is probably the interpretation that
so
he
if,
has in his mind when he's
so
talking about that.
if he believed that it was a miswak, why would he say skip over it? Why would he
If I
say,
had,
don't
look,
worry, just skip
obviously
over
I
it,
don't
go and
have.
divorce them? Why would he say that? Continue to use the same reason you've been using this whole conversation. Come on. Why do you think reasonably he would say, today's day and age, people don't really understand what's going on here. In a different time, he says this could have saved the marriage. But why would he say, yeah, I would just say today, skip over it? Reasonably.
Reasonably, because a lot of people do like to interpret it in a sense of violence, I would assume that when he said that, his intention was just to say, do not do not worry about the step in the Quran that is clearly so heavily debated. Just do not do anything violent to your wife, because clearly, even though the verse doesn't say to harm your wife, there is heavy debate surrounding that verse. So I'm not saying that this is correct, but if I had to assume why he said what you're saying, I'm assuming that he said that just to lower down, like just like to decrease the heavy debate about that last verse, and just to tell people to not even consider that verse, because it's just gonna lead down into a rabbit hole of disagreement. That's if I had to assume.
Okay. So let me ask you this. You saying that made me think of something. So are you familiar with what paradise is going to be like according to the Quran?
Briefly.
Okay. From your brief understanding, what's it going to be like in the Quran, in the paradise for men? What do they get to do in paradise?
I think I know where this conversation is heading.
Yep, maybe you do.
Okay. If I had to assume where this conversation is heading, I've heard a lot. I know I've seen a lot of TikToks that say that men apparently get 72 virgin wives in paradise,
Let's
but
ju-
that isn't true.
let's just say loads. They get loads. So what did the women get?
Every person can get anything they ask for.
So still Muslims can get 10 husbands basically.
I From my understanding, anyone in paradise is entitled to anything that they can get.
So a Muslim can have 10 husbands in paradise.
From my
From
current
your
limited
understanding.
understanding, yes, because you can just ask for anything in paradise.
Okay. And one of the things that a woman could potentially ask for is for multiple husbands. Do you have anything in the Quran which goes with that line of reasoning that you have? Like men obviously have in the Quran that says they're gonna get this sort of stuff.
From what I know about the key principles is, because paradise is for both men and women equally, the rewards for both of them are perfect and complete, and it's, from my understanding, it's not dependent on the gender of them, because paradise is for both men and women.
Okay, but if the Quran is saying that this is what the men are going to get, he's not saying like it's for men. It's not for
No,
women.
because I'm women can ask for anything as well.
Okay, based on what?
I don't know the not like I don't know the not like I don't know the number of the verse or the chapter off the top of my head, but I do know that I do know that women can just ask for anything.
Okay. And you think
Because I do know that the Quran repeatedly emphasizes that paradise completely satisfies both men and women. The Quran never made the rewards of women subordinate to men.
so? If men in paradise get to have their pick, I'll just put it like that. How is that not pleasurable or like providing happiness for the women?
Wait, can you? I don't understand what you just said.
All
Can
right.
you
So
repeat
look,
it?
let me read something to you from the Quran, right? Obviously, you said again before you're not skeptical about the Quran, right? So this is all sound as to hear to you, right?
Okay, yeah, read
Okay.
it.
So this is chapter 56, verse. We'll start at 27. So it starts by saying, "The companions of the right, eyes in the right hand, will be those who will be those on the right hand." Who are these people going to be? It says. Next verse, 28 says, um, let's say, mid thornless, no, no. They will be among thornless, low. Okay, they're going to be among, sorry, these sorts of trees. They're going to be among nice trees. Okay. Then it says in verse 29, and serrate acacias. Okay, so they're going to be amongst nice trees. There's going to be these different trees and these different fruits, food for them. Sounds nice. Verse 30 says, and spreading shade. So they're not going to be burnt by the sun or anything along those lines. Then it says in verse 31, and outpoured waters, okay, or water flowing constantly. So nice rivers, etc. 32. And fruits abounding. So there's going to be loads of fruit. So far, this sounds good, right?
Yes.
Fruit in plenty. So trees, water, fruit, food, etc. And then it says unfailing and unforbidden, whose season is not limited and their supply will not be cut off. So it's going to be unlimited, right? Which sounds great as well. Verse 34. And upraised and appraised couches, and on the couches or thrones raised high. Okay, cool. So they're going to have nice position. Verse 35 says, perfectly we form them perfect. Hilali Khan says, verily we have created them, and it says in brackets, maidens of special creation. Pickfile says, lo, we have created them a new creation. Read through the different translations. Sahih International says, for example, indeed we have produced the women of paradise in a new creation. We have created their companions of special creation. The point is, you read through most of these translations, the other ones will probably say even the same. This is verse 35 in chapter 56. It's talking about these women, perfect women that are being created, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's not talking about perfect women and perfect men. It's just talking about perfect women, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, and then it says, and we have, this is now verse 36, and we have made them, Arbery says, spotless virgins. And you go through the different translations, they all basically say the same thing. And we've made them virgins, or we've made them virgins, we've made them virgins. They're all basically saying we made them pure, undefiled. All basically saying the same thing. There's these women that are going to be there in this paradise-like environment who are created specially. And it says, chastely amorous, so loving their husbands only, equal in age, lovers, friends, devoted to their husbands and of equal age. Okay. And then verse 38, it says, like of the age of the companions of the right. So this is how he closes it. Like, this is what it's going to be like for those who are doing the right things. When we get to the paradise, there's going to be this unlimited amount of fruit and resource, and you're going to be in this nice position. There's going to be flowing water. It's going to be great, basically. Paradise. And in this paradise, Allah is saying here in this chapter, He's going to create these special women, these new creations, which are pure and are going to be there pleasing for their husbands. So when I'm saying, well, look, this is something which is clear in the Quran, which you said you're not skeptical about. Do you have a verse in the Quran which is explaining paradise from a female perspective, where it's like you're going to be a female in paradise, and you're going to get these new special created men who you get to enjoy at your choosing. Or, like we're reading in this passage, it's talking about this is what it's going to be set up for, like for the man. You understand the point I'm making?
Yes.
Okay. So a man is going to be able to deflower all of these women as much as he likes. It's an unlimited, like a buffet, basically. The woman, from her perspective, what's she going to be doing? She's going to be being deflowered by all of these men to his heart's content.
Okay, so before I answer your main question, I just want to say the translations that say the word virgin, the reason the translation says virgin is because the actual Arabic emphasizes purity, beauty, and joy. So the translation technically says virgin, but people do take that out of context. So I just want to make that very clear.
What do you mean by
But
they take it out of context?
because people take it out of context and then obviously make a lie saying that, oh, men get 72 virgins, and they spread that on TikTok. I'm just making a point that the word, yes, it has been translated to virgin, but the true Arabic at its core emphasized the purity and just the beauty of the companions.
Okay, and is
I
it
just want to make that clear.
no? That's good. It's helpful. So is it singular or plural?
I'm not sure. I think because it depends on like the context, because technically you can just ask for anything.
No, but I'm saying like
I guess.
the verse 36 in Arabic, because you specifically spoke about the Arabic. So in Arabic, is it singular about these special
Oh,
creations, or is it?
I don't know. I don't know.
All right, let's see what it says here. Virgins. Noun, female, plural, indefinite, accusative noun. So it's a plural. The Arabic word is plural. Abkaran. Abkaran. Do you know Arabic? Do you speak Arabic?
No, 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 no. I don't speak Arabic. I
Okay, so
just know it. I know a few words here and there. I am learning Arabic, but I'm not fluent.
it's the Arabic word is Abkaran, virgins, and it's a female, plural, and indefinite. So it's plural.
Okay.
So these are some of the reasons. Like obviously, you look in the literature, they're going to say there's all different debates. Like some say 70, some say 72, some just say, well, it just means 70 is a way of saying in Arab, like in Islam, like a lot, a lot. So it could be more than 70. It could be unlimited. Like the way that the passages we read do seem like there's going to be unlimited fruit. There's going to it's going to be like a buffet to a certain degree. You could reasonably come to that interpretation based on the surrounding verses talking about this paradise for men. But there's nothing like this in the Quran for women, is there?
No, there are verses in the Quran that talk about women in paradise.
This verse talks about women in paradise, but I'm saying like there aren't verses in the Quran which talk about women being given these newly specially created men to fulfill their desires, etc. Is there?
Yes, there are plenty of verses that talk about specifically what women get in paradise. I don't know why you're saying that women don't get verses in the Quran about what they get in paradise.
Now, I'm saying not just verses. I'm sure there's verses in the Quran about women in paradise. This is one, but I'm just saying there's nothing like what we've read, like for women.
Well, I know in chapter 36, I don't know the exact verse, but I know in chapter 36 there is a verse that goes something along the lines of they, referring to women, they and their spouses will be reclining on thrones and I think facing each other, something along the lines of that. And that shows that women are promised companions or just husbands in paradise.
Obviously, what we read in chapter 56 wouldn't disagree with that, would it? If
Yeah.
if a man if a Muslim man is in paradise and he has a wife and they're together, that doesn't mean he can't have all these other women, does it?
But in that, but also the Quran, the Quran teaches us that Allah removes whatever burden in both women and men's heart and lets them rejoice in the reward of paradise with their companions. If a man is truly with a wife, he won't he probably wouldn't go out of his way to ask for more.
Why? There's like again, there's hadith which talk about how Allah's gonna give like a man like a big tent, and he's gonna be able to go amongst his women basically, and people aren't going to know.
Okay, I haven't heard of that hadith before. I'll be honest when it comes to paradise, clearly I do not know a lot about
Hmm.
what women and men are granted. But from my limited knowledge, I'm just aware that the key principles are both women and men have a good time in paradise. Both women and men are granted that they're in perfect health, eternal beauty, they're pure, they're healthy, and all that sort of stuff. From my knowledge, it's equal for men and women. But I should do more research into that and into whatever hadith you said about the tent.
Yeah, I think the more you research, especially this topic, you're gonna see that paradise seems like a place in Islam for men to enjoy themselves. And like you can make the case, arguably, that these women that it's talking about here in the Quran, are going to enjoy themselves. That is the enjoyment they get to please the men.
But hypothetically, if a man just asked for multiple women and Allah created that, that's not necessarily it could just be beings, like it could like genuinely like Allah could just create like extra humans in paradise for men. It doesn't necessarily need to be other women in paradise that have lived on earth, because Allah wouldn't exploit other women in paradise just because one man asked for it, because
Well,
Allah's just.
how would it be exploitation? So I'll give you an example, right? In the Quran again, which you said you're not skeptical about, a man can have how many wives?
For
Okay. So a man, before we even get to paradise, here on earth, can have up to 4 wives. So is he exploiting women
okay, no,
now on
okay,
earth?
polygamy is a whole debate, right? I we need I don't think we can intertwine the paradise debate and the polygamy debate that much, because polygamy is a whole different thing.
Okay. Would you, if are you married?
No, no, no. I'm
Okay.
only 18.
Okay. Wow. So if you were married and your husband said he wants to marry another woman, what would you think about that?
No, 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 no. My plan is when I get married, it'll be clear in the contract that I wish to be the only wife. It'll be made clear from the beginning. He won't need to ask me later on in the marriage if he can have another wife. So that wouldn't happen, realistically speaking.
So what if he signs that contract and says, okay, you're going to be the only one, but he lies and just goes and does it anyway?
That that's not no. I would divorce him.
How would you know if he just says, yes, you're going to be the only one, but he's got someone else?
That look that is cheating. Maybe
No,
he can.
it's not cheating. In Islam,
Yes, that is.
one of the people you can lie to your wife if it pleases her. So if he lies to you and says you're the only one because it's going to keep you happy and keep you at home and not try and
Wait,
seek
do you
divorce.
seriously think that because the Quran says that we need to please our wife and that we shouldn't like and we wait, you think because the Quran says that we should lie to please our wives, that makes adultery okay?
How would it be adultery if a man in Islam can have multiple wives? It wouldn't be adultery according to Islam.
Okay, but wives need to be aware of the wife needs to be aware of this. It needs to be
How?
in their marriage contract. You cannot lie about this. Is such a big lie. The Quran does not allow that.
So, so you already, so you are not, so you know the Quran allows a husband to lie to his wife
Okay, I
to
didn't.
please her.
Okay, I don't know about that verse, but I can accept that. But what I can say with confidence is that the Quran condemns lying and cheating and making false claims. Big claims about hiding a whole wife. Like, that's insane.
Wow. So you don't like it, but you understand how Muslim men could do this.
Wait, sorry, can you repeat that?
So you don't like the fact that a Muslim man could lie to his wife and say like, yeah, I'm gonna sign the contract. I'm gonna say you're the only one, but you could go behind her back and continue to say, look, you're the only one, but lie, but and continue to lie because it's gonna be pleasing to her. She's gonna be happy, but have another wife somewhere else.
But yeah, that goes against the Quran. That's not okay.
How does it go against the Quran?
Because the Quran emphasizes that in a marriage, trust is very, very important. For example, in chapter 23, it says, those who are faithful to their trusts and their covenants. Marriage is a trust, and misrepresenting your relationships, for example, hiding a whole wife behind your wife's back, violates that trust. Islam commands justice and kindness and honesty towards our spouses. So, in this case, lying about your marital situation to your wife harms that trust, challenges that trust, and contradicts the principles of marriage that the Quran teaches us about.
So again, if he can lie to her to please her,
Okay, okay. Logically speaking, the context of like lying to please her, it's probably small lies. There is probably context for that.
if
Logically speaking, the Quran
no
does not say it's
logic
okay to
logically
lie about
speaking,
a whole wife.
logically speaking, a lie is acceptable if it pleases the wife.
Okay, okay. You keep on referring to this verse, so I'm going to search this up.
Interesting.
Okay, I can't find this verse. Can you tell me the chapter and the verse number?
I don't think I ever said this in Quran. I'm sure I said this hadith, but
Oh, sorry, it's hadith. Okay, so a
I'll
hadith said
I'll try and find it for
that.
you. Uh, quickly. They reported a live stream again, guys, by the way, a little while back. So I think the under's going to come out true today, but it was worth it for this good conversation.
Sorry, what was worth it?
And I was just saying, we normally do this thing on my live streams where I'm like, let's guess how many times the Muslims are going to report the live stream. So
Report the live
they
stream.
normally
Why
report the
would you
live
do
stream.
that?
They normally report the live stream for hate speech and stuff like that because we have
Really?
conversations about the hadith and the Quran and same kind of conversation we've had very well today, like me and you. But I don't remember I was saying earlier on about Muslims malfunctioning.
Yes, is that what you meant?
Yeah, they do that kind of
Look,
stuff.
look. That is a very, very immature approach to be obviously um reporting the live. Like I do disagree with that. And certain Muslims that you have debated that apparently have been rude to you, reporting the live, malfunctioning, glitching, whatever you want to call it, they don't represent the full Muslim community. And in generally speaking, Muslims are nice people. They should be mature when it comes to debates. And the Muslims that you're debating should just accept the fact that they don't have enough information about something, obviously, instead of reporting your life, which is wrong.
Obviously, most Muslims think I'm lying about the stuff I'm saying. So
No, no, no.
from
I
that perspective,
understand.
I understand why they may do that if they think, oh, you said Muhammad said this or this Quran says this, and they're like, no, he's lying. I can get that, but I don't think it justifies it. But it would be better for you
No,
to
I
actually
agree.
ask
I
me,
don't think
like, where does it
anything.
say this stuff?
No, I don't think anything. I don't think there's any justification for acting immature. So.
But this is the thing as well. Like, I'm gonna find this hadith for you. You're gonna probably say the same thing you've been saying. Like, well, I'm skeptical about it. So. Find it. All right. So here, Muslim. Let's see. Muslim. I'm not, and I was looking for the hadith or whatever where it says a man can lie. Not the Houris. We read the passage about the Houris already.
And also, when you find it, can you please also tell me the number so I can search up?
Mm-hmm. All right, Muslim. So here, Muslim, 2605. So here, Muslim 2605. It says, I'll just read the part that's relevant. A liar is not one who lies to bring reconciliation amongst people and speaks good in order to avert dispute. So if you are lying to, I guess they would say, bring peace, they'd say that's acceptable, or he conveys good. Then it says, where is it? There's 3 cases where you can lie: in battle, for bringing reconciliation amongst persons. In battle. In battle is one of the places you can lie. For bringing reconciliation amongst persons. And then it says, and the narration of the words of the husband to his wife. So, a husband speaking to his wife, and the narration of the words of a wife to a husband in a twisted form in order to bring reconciliation between them. So it's basically just saying a husband can lie to his wife, and there's some versions out there which talk about the wife being able to lie to the husband as well.
Okay, yeah.
So it's a hadith. The hadith are the gift that keep on giving.
Yeah. Okay, so do you have more to say about the hadith, or do you want to hear what I have to say about it?
No, it's just, what do you have to say about it? Like, if it's giving you exceptions to lie in certain circumstances, one of them is for a husband to lie to his wife if he's going to please her. So that's general. That could apply to so much different stuff.
Okay, so from what I know, I think either most scholars or genuinely every scholar is very clear that this lying isn't meant to be deception. The lying mentioned in this hadith is meant to be harmless or just affectionate exaggeration to please your wife, or vice versa. Just harmless lies to please your wife. So it's
Lying
not meant to
isn't
be.
deception. Lying
But
isn't meant to be
there's
deception, you said.
there is this okay. It's not meant to have a consequence, because in the long term that's not pleasing your wife, is it?
I don't think you should lie to your wife.
In some okay, this there is so much we could like. It's scholars generally agree that it's meant to be small harmless lies, or just exaggerating some things just to please your wife, or vice versa. Because obviously situations aren't black and white. Sometimes you need to say a thing or two here and there to bring reconciliation. But in no way, shape, or form does that mean that hiding a whole wife is okay. Because that leads that there's so many consequences to that.
Not if you don't find out. If you
But
don't
Allah
find
knows,
out,
right?
if
You
you don't
okay, you know
find
what, you're
out,
right.
if you don't find
Argument
out, then
sake,
it does its job. You've been pleased. You're happy the whole time. Everything went well.
argument sake, you're right. You're pleasing your wife. But Allah knows your intention. Allah knows that you're trying to hide your wife because you don't want the other wife to find out. You want to have two wives without any consequences.
Yes.
But Allah knows your intention. Because
It,
Islam is all about intention. Allah knows what's in your heart. If Allah knows that that man has he doesn't have a good heart because he's being morally unjust.
how does he not have a good heart if he's doing what Allah gives him the power to do, i.e., have multiple wives? He's also doing what Allah's given him the power to do, to potentially lie in that situation. So wife number one is pleased and happy and is in this bubble that, yeah, everything's fine, I'm his only one, and he's got another wife somewhere else. What would he be doing which is against what Islam gives him the power to do? He'd be doing exactly the right thing according to Islam.
No, it's not. And the reason is because the hadith says that we can do a lie here and there or just exaggerate something to please our wife. Why? Because your intention is to be nice to your wife. Because you love your wife and you have the intention to love and care for her and for her to be happy, yes, you can take some measures to get there. However, if we're talking about a second man who wants to have a whole other wife, you and I can both say, I hope with confidence that that man doesn't have good intentions. So if that man doesn't have good intentions because he is lying to his wife about having a whole other wife, his intention is not to please his wife. His
Is pleasing your
intention,
wife a good intention?
pleasing his wife, hiding his
No,
wife.
forget
Is
about
that no,
that.
no, 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 no.
Is
Listen to me.
pleasing your wife a
Hiding
good
his
intention?
if it's in your heart, obviously it's a good if you want to please your wife, yes, it's a good intention.
So he's doing a good intended thing in the framework of Islam.
No, no, because in his heart is all about having a second wife and hiding it. The consequence of hiding it is pleasing his wife, but it's not his intention. That's the
Okay.
difference.
So I mentioned this with someone earlier on. Are you familiar with the story with Muhammad and his female captive that he was having intercourse with? Are you familiar with that story?
No.
Okay. Something you just said made me think about it, reminded me of it again. So basically the story goes like this. Muhammad has this captive woman that he enjoys spending time with. I'll just put it like that. And his wives, some of the wives don't like it. So some of the wives basically say like, Muhammad, what are you doing? Like, don't do it, basically. Muhammad says to them, he gives his word, I'm not going to do anything with this woman anymore. This special captive of his that he likes to spend time with. So he gives his word to them. Then they find him with her again in bed, basically. And it creates some big dust up. And then in that scenario, Allah rebukes Muhammad and is like, why are you not doing the thing I've given you license to do? Why did you even say to them you're not going to do it and wait to get caught, basically, for you to just start doing it again, basically? So when Muhammad said to these wives, I'm not going to do anything with this female captive anymore, based on what you were saying before, where were his intentions at, considering he went back to do it anyway?
Okay, is that a hadith or from the Quran?
It's the Quran, and then there's like tafsir. You know what tafsir are, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the tafsir fills in for the Quran, gives you some understanding about what's actually going on. What do
All
you think about?
right.
What do you think about it anyway? Let me.
I haven't heard of. I've never. No, I haven't heard of that before.
Um, but based on the scenario, he was trying to please his wives because they weren't happy with it, and he said he won't visit this female captive anymore. And he got caught, and then he gets revelation. What do you
I'll
think about it?
I'll be honest. I don't know. I've never heard of this. I haven't come across that before. So
So you've got no thoughts on it.
I haven't come across this story before.
All right, well, that's something you can add to your list to research. But based on what you were saying, obviously, Muhammad would be evil based on your judgment because he knew what he was doing when he said he's not going to do it, but went back to do it anyway. But he was trying to please his wives. So for me, I get it in the Islamic framework what he was doing. He's trying to please his wife. He's trying to keep the peace. So he just says to them, like, okay, don't worry, I'm not going to do it anymore. But still obviously goes to do it.
Yeah, I don't necessarily know what to say. Uh, I I don't know what to say because I need to look more into it and the context. There's probably a lot more to say about. Yeah.
Obviously, you knew what to say before when I was asking you about a Muslim man lying to his wife
Yeah,
to
because
please her
that
to have
that
another wife. Now, when it's Muhammad and he's basically lying to his wives to continue to pleasure himself with this particular female captive he likes, a Christian captive, actually, funny enough. But now you don't know what to say.
because now this is a specific story, word for word, in the Quran. So I don't want to make any judgments about it before I look into the context of it. Because this is now we're looking at a specific story, not a hypothetical question. This is an
Okay,
actual thing in the Quran.
it's a specific story which has specific insights. He said to his wives he wasn't going to do anything with them, with this woman, and then he did something with her, continued to do stuff with her, and got caught. So was his lie acceptable
I
because
don't
it was pleasing his wives?
I don't know. I'll be honest, my morals are telling me no. My morals are saying that that story is completely bad, that the prophet shouldn't be doing any of that. But I need to look more into the context as well.
And you know what Muslims do when you know why? Like I've said this to you already, but like stay the way you are. Like this
What
is
do you mean?
good. It's good. Like questioning stuff, thinking through stuff, reasoning. Like
Yeah.
this is how you are supposed to be. So
Mm-hmm.
you're I'm what the reason what's making me say this again is because you're like, well, look, I feel like saying this, but you don't want to say this. And the
Yeah.
truth is, a lot of Muslims feel exactly the same way you feel about loads of different stuff. The only difference is they won't openly acknowledge it publicly. So
Yeah.
obviously, like I said, you just talking about we was talking about polygamy. I wasn't even thinking to go back to Muhammad and that particular situation, but you just, whatever you said just made me think about it again. And it's just like,
Yeah. That's okay.
do you get what I'm saying? So it's like this is where I talk about Muslims malfunctioning. It's like you have an understanding. You have like, okay, I just made this argument heavily about a generic man lying to his wife to please her. Now he's giving me a specific example, and it's the example to me, like it's your prophet. So now it's like, whoa, like, should I have the same energy I just had? Well, if you're going to be consistent, yes, but it's Muhammad, so it's like, well, I can't really do that because if I do that, then it's a problem. That's what Islam does to you.
That's what you think Islam does.
Yes, that's what it does. It causes you to look at something and be like, I'm arguing all the way left about this particular situation. No, my husband shouldn't ever lie to me about this particular thing. It's not pleasing. If he's doing that, Allah will know his intentions in his heart. He's being evil, he's being wicked, etc. Then we start talking about Muhammad specifically. And Muhammad lied to his wives about not going to this woman again. And it's like, but he did it. And then he got caught, and then he gets revelation. And it's just like, why not have the same consistent energy that you had previously now on a specific example?
Yeah. No, I agree.
See? And this is the reason I'm thanking you, is because, again, most Muslims will not acknowledge this openly, but you see it.
Yeah.
You actually see the problem and the dilemma. This is why this is actually such a good conversation to have, because when you're having conversations with people, you want everybody to come to the table and be honest and to be reasonable. I've already for the most part, like I've had my reservations, obviously, like I said, but for the most part, you've been very reasonable with the stuff we're talking about, which is how we should be across the board.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm saying it's like you see the problem and it's difficult for you. I get that. But don't let anything rob you of following and walking towards truth more and more. Like from a Christian perspective, we are compelled. We always have to go towards the truth. We can't like tell lies just to make things sound good. Because you see what you were saying earlier on? You were saying, well, look, if the guy lies, it's going to be a problem down the line, right?
Yeah.
That's how it is for us as Christians. We can't go out and start telling lies, because if we're telling lies, like knowingly telling lies, and we go out and we start telling lies, we know it's not going to work out for us in the end. This is why when I have these sorts of conversations, I'm going to be talking about Quran verse. I'm going to be talking about Hadith, which I know what I'm talking about. Because if I don't know, and imagine if I just came on this live stream and I was just lying, like, oh, Islam teaches this, the Quran teaches this, the Hadith teaches this, that wouldn't actually go well for me as a Christian. Like, that wouldn't actually help, because Muslims would just be like, well, he's just a liar. But I'll have conversations like this, and we can have conversations about all of this different stuff, and you can go and look it up and research it, and like, yeah, he said this, and this is where it's said, and this is all on even. You're like, yeah, I'll just say that. So you see the problem.
Yeah, I agree. I don't want to go against my own morals, but at the same time, I think I do want to I do want to do more research into Islam, because ultimately I do think it teaches a lot of good things, but I don't want to pick and choose when it comes to religion. I want to embrace the religion as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
You don't have to be in these kind of conundrums, you know that, right?
No, I think I need to sit in discomfort for now and just do more research into my religion. I don't want to completely just take a step back and say, no, I'm just gonna leave Islam. I do need to do more research.
Please do. And look, we had these conversations today on various different topics. This was such a good conversation. You obviously are welcome to come back and have a conversation whenever I'm talking about Islam again in the future in regards to Christianity. And go and research Muhammad and the slave girl and that drama it caused in his household. And yeah, maybe next time we can talk more about it, and just you can tell me what you think. But yeah. Anything else you want to say?
I don't have much to say. Like, when I first joined the live, I was prepared to say some things about Christianity, but we've already said a lot anyways. So
what do you like specifically about Christianity? What was it? What questions? What?
That there are I have read some verses that I just have
Say that again. You said there are questions. What?
So I do have some questions about the Bible, specifically verses in the Bible that I don't think are fair when it comes to women that I've just read, but I don't know the context of them. So maybe you can tell me the context of them.
Okay, like give me an example.
Okay, this okay, the verse I have in mind I think is in Corinthians, but I don't know exactly what the I think I have a screenshot of it on my phone. So let me just like give me a second.
Do I say pray for the guests, guys? Pray for them.
Okay, so in Corinthians, in 11:4, it says, so the verse was talking about how women should cover their hair when she's praying.
Mm-hmm.
But it also says in that verse, every man who prays or prophesies with his head covered dishonors his head. So I don't know why you're saying that women should cover their head, but then saying the opposite for men, saying that no, men shouldn't cover their head. But why is that the most like polar opposite standard for men and women when it comes to praying?
I guess when you read through the passage, it talks about one of the things it talks about is like I guess it's a passage. It talks about hair, right? And it's basically talking about how from a hair is seen as different. It's viewed as different from a man to a woman. So it talks about how a woman's hair is her glory, which is why if you go down the line of reasoning that it's talking about covering it, why it's saying be covered, etc. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Yeah. So
but but like specifically it says that a man who covers his head is has dishonored his head.
hmm
Why that verse? Why I want to know more about why it's saying that about the man.
yeah, because it's not the same. It's different. It's like I'll give you an
Okay.
example. I think about it like this, right? This may can help you understand it. So imagine you've got a guy who's out and a woman that's out, and it's not the best example, but like her chest is covered, his chest isn't covered. You would
Okay,
look
yeah.
you would look at it
Yeah,
like
no, I
the woman
understand.
needs to cover her chest because there's something special there which shouldn't be seen. Whereas a guy, you wouldn't like most people like wouldn't even like he doesn't have anything special there. So it's not the best example, but it can help you
No, I
understand to a certain
understand. I
degree.
understand. Okay, no, there's one thing that I actually want to talk about. It just came in my mind, but I think like it's one of the main things that I want to talk about.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's the story of Adam and Eve in the Bible.
Okay. What about it?
So obviously we both believe in Adam and Eve, but we are both aware of the minor differences in the Bible versus the Quran when it talks about Adam and Eve.
Minor.
And maybe not minor, but like I know like fine. Big differences between Adam and Eve in the Bible and the Quran.
I was gonna say you've been sticking mostly to the crown, but there's a hadith that say like Adam and was like what 60 feet high or whatever or something like that.
Okay, so the
But
differences that
yeah, go ahead anyway.
I so the differences that I know is that in the Bible it says that Eve ate the fruit first, but in the Quran it doesn't specify who ate it first. The Quran just says that both of them sinned. Um, I know that
hmm
in the Bible it says that because Eve ate the fruit and Eve has sinned because she ate the fruit from the tree of good and evil,
hmm
the punishment for all women later down the line is painful childbirth and like all of these punishments. And but what I like about the Quran, well, when it comes to the Genesis story, it doesn't focus on Eve being at fault or Eve eating the fruit first. And even in the Quran, when both Adam and Eve ate the fruit, they recognized their sin, apologized, Allah forgave them, and then just sent them to earth anyways as a mission or a test for the rest of mankind. So I just want to know what your interpretation of is. Do you think original sin is fair? Do you think it's fair that the focus was put on Eve? Like Eve, because I mean, like, I guess it makes sense because you guys say that Eve ate the fruit first. And what do you think about the punishment for all women being painful childbirth because of what Eve did?
Okay, so you ask some good questions.
Okay, yeah.
What I'll say first is original sin isn't necessarily like relevant to the other questions you asked, because
Okay,
so I'll kind of sidestep that one.
that's fine.
But the other questions, right? I don't even know why my Bible's frozen. But okay, what I was going to say is I don't think. Firstly, the Bible's given us just details. It's just telling us Genesis, where Adam and Eve is part of the Bible, where it's given us like what we'd say as history. So it's telling us what happened. So I don't know about you, but like when I hear stories, I want as much information as possible. Like don't sugarcoat it. Tell me what happened. So if the Quran doesn't say who sinned first or whatever, okay, but the Bible obviously in Genesis is telling us exactly how things panned out. There's some deep stuff behind that, but I won't go that deep. But if you think about the account, hold on. Okay, if you think about the account, right, when you read it in Genesis chapter 3, my computer's frozen, so I can't show it to you right now, but I'll say it this way. So
That's okay.
basically, Eve is talking to the serpent, talking to the devil. He tricks her into eating the fruit. Adam obviously now eats the fruit. He's not ignorant, he's not tricked. He just does it because his wife's done it, right? So when God comes, this is why it's interesting that people say that it's focused on Eve. It says, I'll read it from my phone. It says, what verse is it? So chapter 3, this is all in Genesis chapter 3 if you want to read it at some point in the future, right? So she's eating it, he's eating it. It says in chapter 3, verse 8 and 9. I'll read it to you. It says, and they heard the voice of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord amongst the trees of the garden. So obviously they've eaten the fruit now. They've realized now they're naked, they're sinful. They now hear God and they run away. All right, they hide themselves in the trees. Now look what God says and who he speaks to. And the Lord God called unto Adam and said unto him. Who did he call?
Adam.
Right? See, he didn't call Eve. And the reason he didn't call Eve is because Adam was to be the head. He's the one who you hold responsible. If you think about like when it comes to, I'll give you an example like with my children, right? My oldest is my daughter. And I always say to her a lot of the time, like, look, you're the oldest. I expect the most from you. Like, make sure you're on point. And I'm not going to go to like one of the younger ones and say, I expect the most of you. Like, you ain't been here as long as she's been here. Does that make sense? Okay, so God speaks to Adam specifically. He doesn't go to Eve. And he says, where are you? So then in verse 10, Adam says, I heard your voice in the garden and I was afraid because I was naked and I hid myself. So then God says to Adam again, he's not even speaking to Eve. He says, who told you that you're naked? This is verse 11. Have you eaten of the trees where I commanded you not to eat? So he's now asking him. Notice this is all to Adam. Nothing to do with Eve, even though Eve ate the fruit first. And then he says, which is always makes me laugh. In verse 12 it says, the man said, the woman who you gave me, she gave me of the tree and I did eat. And this is the point now when Adam, basically cowardly, pushes the blame to his wife and to God basically. God, it's your fault. The woman that you gave me, she's the reason why I ate it. Then at that point, God now starts speaking to Eve. You get it? So then he now starts talking to her. Same way he spoke to Adam initially. Like, hey, what's going on? She says the serpent tricked me. He deceived me. I ate it. Then which is also interesting, after he speaks to the woman, she says it's the serpent. So notice what's happening here. God speaks to Adam, even though he sinned second. Adam pushes it to Eve. Eve pushes it to the serpent. Then God speaks to the serpent. And he says, basically, because you've done this to the serpent, you're going to be judged, etc. Then he says to the woman, this is your punishment. And then he says to the man, this is your punishment as well. So think about it like this. This is what I thought about when you first brought this up. Number one, Eve isn't focused on. She's not even like spoken of first. God goes straight to Adam, which was the right thing to do. Even though she committed the sin first, even though Adam is trying to blame her, God still held Adam as responsible first and foremost. Secondly, they all got punished, which makes sense. You do something wrong, you're most likely going to get some sort of punishment. But he says to the woman, you're going to have this punishment. But notice that the punishment that he gives to the woman is only for a specific like time, if you get what I'm saying. So in childbearing, number one, women aren't always pregnant. Women aren't always going through childbearing. And even if you think about the second part of it, you talk about like the time of the month, right? That's not the whole of the month. It's a specific time of the month. Do you get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
The reason I'm saying this is because when you think about what God said to Adam now, he said, work is going to be hard for you going forward. And that's something which happens every single day. That's not like that's not a certain time of the month. That's not only 9 months out of the times you get pregnant. It's every day. So he spoke to Adam first, and the punishment he gave to Adam was a daily, continual thing. So people who say, oh, like God focused on the woman, like most people that say that haven't read the passage to know that God went right to the man, and it was the man that got the more severe punishment.
Fair enough. I understand.
So, like, have you read how much? Like, you read the Bible before? Like, anything in the Bible?
No, I think maybe I should read the Bible. Like in terms of, I'm just like at a stage where I just want to learn a lot about the Abrahamic faiths.
Yeah. Like,
I'm going through the English translation of the Quran at a very slow pace, but in summer on increase. I'm reading I have a book called the Sunnah, and that has hadiths from the Prophet. I haven't started reading it yet because I just got it the other day, but I'm gonna start reading that. Maybe I should get a Bible just to read it, but
yeah, I would definitely recommend you do that. I would just say, like, a lot of people say start with the Gospel of John, and I was gonna say you should start with the Gospel of John, and even just to think about the conversations we've had today. Like, read through the Gospel of John and like look and observe how Jesus treats women specifically in the Gospel of John. Even if you could do that, or even the Gospel of Luke. Considering that's what we spoke about today, you go through those, either pick John or pick Luke, and see how Jesus interacts with women, like from the beginning to the end. Like, it's so different when you look at Muhammad and when you look at Jesus. It's uncomparable. But you wouldn't know that if you don't read about what Jesus did and what he said and all of that stuff. So,
okay. I do you do you think it's good enough if I just download the Bible app and read it from there?
yeah, like loads of people read
Okay.
the Bible on their phone. They don't read a physical copy. Loads of people do
Fair
that.
enough. Fair enough.
The important thing is that you read it. Like, that's how
No,
you can.
yeah,
Yeah, when
but
you
it's
read it.
not like I'll I'll be honest. I don't see myself being Christian as of now, but I will read it with an open mind, 100%,
Hmm.
because I do want to I as I said, I want to, and I need to learn more about my faith and Judaism and Christianity.
Yeah.
So I will read the Bible with an open mind. However, I'll be honest, with not really with the intention where like I might convert.
That's just like people read it
I
like that all
only
the
see
time.
myself in I genuinely only see myself in two different situations, and it would just be me staying Muslim or leaving Islam and not being religious.
So if like, okay, tell me about that. Like, if you can see yourself at some point, based on whatever would happen, potentially leaving Islam. If you ever left Islam, why would religion as a whole be off the table for you? And
Because if I in terms of the Abrahamic faiths, Islam is I like that Islam is so monotheistic. I don't like the idea about the Trinity at all. It doesn't
okay,
make sense. It doesn't truly make sense to me. And I think when it comes to the oneness of God, it just really makes sense in Islam. And yes, I need to learn about the context of these hadiths and these stories about the Prophet and the female sex slaves and all that sort of stuff. But at the same time, the Quran gives clear financial rights to women, um, which I do really appreciate. And I don't know if the Bible gives those clear rights to women as the Quran does, because the Quran is very clear in terms of rules. I think you and I can both agree on it. It just sets rules, right? It's it is a rule book. It has a bunch of rules, and Islam is very clear on the rules, and I like that Islam is clear on the rights that that Muslim women are granted. So I just don't see I don't see myself being Christian. I really like if I Islam over Islam and Christianity, I do prefer Islam 100%, but it is biased because I haven't been brought up in Islam. But that's why, as I say, like my mind, obviously my mind could change. Like I know that. That's why I want to approach the Bible with an open mind.
obviously,
But
like I'm not surprised you prefer Islam. Obviously, you're a Muslim, so
yeah.
the things you're saying right now aren't surprising to me. They're not shocking to me.
Yeah, like
I
I
get it.
know
I get
this
it.
it is coming from like 100% a biased perspective. I can't deny that. I was literally raised in the religion. But it's also like a mix of like my parents being really good people, really really loving parents, and seeing them practice like Islam with like just such passion and dedication. It does inspire you as a child to just stick to that religion.
Obviously, no one really wants to grow up and make their parents unhappy and do something which we know would like break their heart.
Yeah.
And for the most part, like you don't have to do that. The only like the places where I would say we have to be willing to do that is when it's in the pursuit of truth. So if like I'll give you this example, right? If imagine you're walking down a road and you realize your parents are in front of you and you realize somehow that at the end of this road is going to be a cliff and everyone that gets to the end of the road is going to fall off the cliff. You would do everything you can to get them from that road, right?
Yeah.
Even if they believed you getting off that road and going a different way or trying to get them off the road was a bad thing. You would say
Yeah.
no, like this is so true. I need to save them. I need to get them help before it's too late. So in areas of truth, that's like an area where I get it. Like we have family, we have friends who will be broken by decisions we make in life at times. But there are times in life which we have to say truth matters more than everything else because it's so important. If you like I said, like I get everything you're saying and I understand that where you're at right now, you've never read the Bible. So
Yeah.
do you get what I'm saying? We've spoken about a couple of things today. I'm not necessarily expecting you to turn around and be like, oh yeah, like I leave Islam and I hate Islam. Like, no, that's not where I thought this was necessarily going to go. But this is why I was saying to you earlier on, I keep saying it to you, just make sure you keep pursuing truth and being reasonable and not just taking stuff just because someone says it. Like, that's the worst kind of thing to be in, where it's just like, oh, well, someone said this to me or these scholars said it, so I just say it. I just take it. Like, trust me, that there's Christian scholars who say some crazy stuff, which could make certain things in the Bible easier to explain, but it just doesn't sound true. It's not. It's not true. It doesn't sound reasonable, and I'm free to say that. I don't care just
Nice.
because a scholar says something which may make it easier to explain certain things. I'm just gonna go with it. No, that's not how truth works. You just pursue it and let it lead you to where you're supposed to go. It's supposed to lead you like to God, right? So you should never be afraid to pursue truth and where it will take you to, because it will lead you to God.
I definitely hear what you're saying. I definitely hear what you're saying. I should, yeah, I will read the Bible with the open mind, but the same thing with the Quran and the same thing with the Hadith. Like I am moving through all of these books with an open mind.
All right. Well, like I said to you before, this was a really good conversation. Thank you for being so reasonable. This is not
Yeah,
what I
no,
typically get.
I yeah, no, I know I like this conversation. It definitely I learned a lot that I didn't know before. So
All right. Well, like, don't be afraid to come back at some point in the future. Hopefully, we can talk again. All right.
yeah, of course, yes.
All right. God bless.
Bye.